If you are spending more money on chicken feed than you are making back from your eggs, then what I am about to share with you today might be the most useful thing you hear all year. I mean that honestly, not just for your wallet, but for the way you think about raising animals and growing your own food. Let me start with something simple. Do you remember what a bag of chicken feed used to cost? Not that long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years back, you could walk into your local farm store and pick up a 50-pound bag of good quality layer feed for somewhere around $15 or $16, maybe $18 on a bad day. That was normal, that felt fair. You did not think much about it. Now that same bag runs you $35, $40, sometimes $50 depending on where you live, and that is if they even have it in stock. A lot of folks have gone to the store on a Tuesday and come home empty-handed because the shelves were bare. Now I know some people will say, well, prices go up, that is just how it is. And sure, some of that is true. But when a bag of feed nearly triples in price in just a few years, that is not just regular life getting more expensive. That is something else happening. That is a system that was not really built with you in mind. Think about what is actually inside that bag. It is mostly corn and soybean meal, maybe some added vitamins and minerals. But by the time that corn and that soy gets from a field in the Midwest to a bag on that store shelf near you, it has gone through a whole chain of people and companies all taking their cut. Fuel costs, shipping costs, storage costs, factory costs, bag and label costs, and every single one of those costs gets added to the price you pay. You are not just buying corn, you are buying everybody else's overhead too. And here is what really gets to me. When drought hits somewhere, when diesel prices go up, when something shifts in world markets, you feel it immediately, right there at the checkout. But none of those farmers who grew that corn, none of them are getting rich either. It is the people in the middle who keep doing just fine, no matter what happens. So what does this mean for you? If you have around 20 chickens, which is a pretty normal flock for a backyard or small homestead, you are probably going through close to 100 pounds of feed every single month. At today's prices, that is somewhere between $70 and $100 a month just in feed. You add that up over a full year, and you are looking at somewhere around $1,000 just to feed your birds. And if you are selling eggs at $6 a dozen, you would have to sell well over 150 dozen eggs before you even start breaking even on feed. The math just does not work the way it used to. So that is the problem, and I did not bring it up just to make you feel bad about it. I brought it up because the solution I want to tell you about today makes a whole lot more sense when you really feel how serious the problem is. There is a plant. One small simple plant that could change everything about the way you feed your flock. It costs almost nothing to get started with. It does not need soil. It does not need fertilizer. It does not need much of anything except a little water and some sunlight. And it grows so fast that under good conditions, it doubles its size every 2 to 3 days. I want you to let that sink in for a second. Every 2 to 3 days, you have twice as much as you had before. This plant is called azolla. You might not have heard of it. Most people over here in the West have not. But in parts of Asia, in India, in Vietnam, in China, in the Philippines, farmers have known about this plant for a very long time. We are talking hundreds of years, over 1,000 years in some places. Farmers there have been growing it in small ponds and water troughs right alongside their animals and their rice fields for generations. It has been studied by agricultural scientists. Papers have been written about it, tests have been done, and the results keep coming back the same. This plant works. So what makes azolla so special? Let me explain it simply. Azolla is a tiny floating fern. It sits right on top of the water. It is small, soft, and a little bit fluffy looking, almost like green moss floating around. It does not have roots that go into the ground. It just floats, and it pulls what it needs right from the water and the air around it. Now here's the part that really matters for your chickens. Azolla is loaded with protein. When you dry it out and test it, it comes in at somewhere between 25 and 35% protein. Your average bag of layer feed sits at about 16 to 18% protein. So azolla actually has more protein per pound than the commercial feed you are buying right now. And it is not just protein, it also has calcium, which your laying hens absolutely need for good strong eggshells. It has iron, it has phosphorus, it has important vitamins, and it has something called carotenoids, which are natural pigments that make egg yolks turn a deep golden orange color. If you have ever cracked open an egg from a truly healthy, well-fed hen and seen that rich, dark yolk staring back at you, that is what carotenoids do. Chickens fed azolla regularly produce eggs with noticeably darker, richer, better-looking yolks. People notice that. People pay more for that. Farmers in India ran feeding tests where they replaced about a quarter of the regular feed with fresh azolla. The chickens grew just as well, they stayed just as healthy, the only difference was it cost less. In Vietnam, duck farmers and pig farmers have used it as a main part of their animals' diet for decades. The Vietnamese government actually encouraged farmers to grow it back in the 90s as a way to help rural families spend less and eat better. Chickens in studies from the Philippines that ate diets with 10 to 15% azolla kept laying eggs at the same rate, gained the same weight, and actually had better-looking yolks than the control group. And in China, it has been grown and used in farming for so long that there are written records going back more than 1,000 years. This is not some new experiment. This is old, trusted, tested knowledge. The only reason most people raising chickens in America or Europe have never heard of it is because nobody is trying to sell it to you. And that brings me to something I want to be really honest with you about. There is a very simple reason this plant is not sitting on the shelves at your feed store. There is no money in it for anybody but you. Azolla cannot be put in a bag and branded with a logo. It cannot be patented. Nobody owns it. You cannot charge $100 a month for something a person can grow themselves in a plastic tub in their backyard. The commercial feed industry in this country is worth tens of billions of dollars every single year. Azolla does not fit into that system. It does not generate profit for distributors or manufacturers or retailers, so nobody tells you about it. It is not that it is hidden exactly, it is just that there is no one whose job it is to make sure you find out. And the second reason is a little harder to talk about but just as real. Most of us were raised to think that buying things is just how farming works. You buy seeds, you buy fertilizer, you buy feed, you buy medicine, you buy. The whole modern agricultural system is built around you being a customer. The idea of actually growing your own chicken feed from scratch, doing it yourself with something that costs almost nothing, it sounds strange to a lot of people because we have been taught for so long that production is something companies do, not something regular people do in their backyards. But that is just not true. Now let me walk you through exactly how to grow this thing, step by step, because it is genuinely simple, and I do not want you walking away thinking this is complicated because it is not. First thing you need is something that holds water. That is it. A kiddie pool works perfectly. A big plastic storage tote works. An old stock tank works. An unused bathtub works. Even a large plastic bin from the hardware store works. Whatever you have got or whatever you can get cheaply, as long as it holds water and is at least 6 inches deep, you are good to go. Place it somewhere that gets a decent amount of sunlight throughout the day. Azolla likes light. It does not need to be in full blazing sun every single hour, but somewhere with good morning or afternoon sun is ideal. Somewhere too shady will slow it down quite a bit. Fill it up with clean, fresh water. If you are using tap water from a garden hose, just let it sit out for a full day before you add anything to it. Tap water often has chlorine in it, and chlorine can bother the plant when it is first getting started. Let the chlorine evaporate out naturally. After 24 hours, your water is ready. Now you need a small amount of azolla to get started. You can find it online pretty easily. Look for aquatic plant suppliers, or even search in homesteading groups or permaculture communities online. People who grow it often share or sell small starter amounts very cheaply. A small handful, just enough to cover a little patch of your water surface, is all you need to get going. Drop it in and leave it alone for a few days. Within a week, you should start to see it spreading. It grows outward across the water surface in a carpet. Under warm, sunny conditions, it can double its coverage every 2 to 3 days. In slightly cooler or cloudier weather, it slows down, maybe doubling every 5 to 7 days, but it still keeps growing. Azolla does best when the water temperature is between about 68 and 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That covers most of spring, summer, and early fall in most parts of the country. In colder months, it slows way down or goes dormant, but you can bring a small amount inside to keep it alive through winter and then restart your outdoor pond in the spring. To keep it growing well, it helps to add just a small amount of nutrients to the water every week or so. A little bit of diluted compost tea is excellent. Some people add a small amount of wood ash for potassium. You do not need much, just enough to replace what the plant is pulling out as it grows. If you notice the azolla starting to look yellowish or pale, that usually means it wants a little more nutrition in the water. A small boost of organic matter usually fixes it within a few days. Harvesting is the best part because it could not be easier. You just scoop it out with your hand or a small net. Pull out about half to 3/4 of what is growing, leaving enough behind so it can keep spreading and filling back in. Rinse it quickly under clean water to wash off any dust or debris, and then you can feed it fresh right to your birds. When you first introduce azolla to your flock, start small. Mix just a little bit into their regular feed. Chickens are creatures of habit, and some of them can be a little suspicious of something new. But most birds take to it quickly, especially once they get curious and start pecking at it. Within a week or two, most flocks are actively excited when azolla shows up. Give them time, and they will figure out that it tastes good and makes them feel good. Once your flock is used to it, you can increase how much you are feeding. Many farmers comfortably replace 10 to 20% of their regular feed with fresh azolla and see no drop in egg production at all. Some go higher than that, up to 30 or 40%, especially in the warmer months when the azolla is growing fast and there is plenty to go around. If you want to store some for later, drying it is simple. Spread it out in a thin layer on a screen or on a clean tarp in direct sunlight. On a warm day with good sun, it will be dry in 1 to 2 days. Once it is dry and crumbly, you can store it in a sealed container for several months. Dry azolla keeps most of its nutritional value and can be rehydrated in water before feeding or just crumbled into feed as is. Now let me put some real numbers on this so you can see what it means for your situation. 1 square meter of water surface, which is basically just over 3 feet by 3 feet, can produce 10 to 15 kilograms of fresh azolla every single month. That translates to about 22 to 33 pounds of fresh plant material from one small tub. Since fresh azolla is about 90% water, once you dry it down, you are left with roughly 2 to 3 pounds of dry high-protein feed from that 1 square meter every month. If you set up 3 or 4 containers, which most people can do easily in a small backyard or even on a patio, you could be producing somewhere between 6 and 12 pounds of dry feed every single month. That might not sound like a lot, but when you factor it in at 20 to 30% of your flock's diet, the savings add up fast. A farmer in North Carolina, regular backyard kind of setup, was spending $90 a month on feed. He set up 3 plastic tubs in his side yard. Within a couple of months, he had brought that cost down to under $20 a month. He did not change anything else. Same chickens, same number of eggs, same everything. He just started growing part of their food himself. A woman in Oregon with a small laying flock replaced half of her commercial feed using a single 6-foot stock tank in her backyard. Half, that is $50 saved every month without changing a single thing about how she manages her chickens. These are not special cases. These are regular people who tried something simple and it worked. And it can work for you too. I want to leave you with something that goes beyond the money though, because I think it matters. There is a real satisfaction that comes from not being completely dependent on a system that does not care much about you. When feed prices go up again next year, and they probably will, it does not have to feel like a punch in the stomach anymore. When the shelves at the farm store are empty, you are not stuck. When something shifts in the supply chain somewhere on the other side of the world, your chickens still eat. That feeling of having some control, of not being at the mercy of prices and supply chains and corporate decisions, that is worth something. Farmers in Asia figured that out a long time ago. They built resilience right into their backyards with something that costs almost nothing and grows itself. You can do exactly the same thing. So here's what I want you to do. This week, find yourself a container that holds water. A tub, a tank, a kiddie pool, whatever you have around. Look up azolla online and order a small starter amount. Set it up somewhere sunny, fill it with water, drop the plant in, and then just watch what happens over the next 2 weeks. That is it. That is the whole first step. And then come back here and tell me how it went. Tell me what your chickens thought of it. Tell me if you saw it doubling the way people say it will. That kind of real-world feedback from real people like you is worth more than anything I can say in a video. Your chickens will be healthier for it. Your wallet will be lighter in a good way. And somewhere in there, I think you are going to feel a little better about the whole thing too, because knowing how to take care of yourself and the animals you raise with your own hands, with what nature provides, that never gets old. Go give it a try. You have got nothing to lose and a whole lot of chicken feed bills to save.